Democrat, Ilhan Omar, has been saying a lot of outrageous things, Jason. And this is maybe to deflect what could be coming down her way, which is Treasury Secretary Bessent very much looking into the fraud in Minnesota. But here she is talking about Stephen Miller on mass migration, because she has no answers for the billion-dollar COVID scheme except words like this.
When I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me, yes, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany.
Stephen Miller is Jewish. I mean, this whole Nazi, it's never ending, Jason. And, you know, what's happening there with the Somali community, and it goes all the way to Tim Walz. I mean, I think Americans deserve a lot of answers, and this administration, whether it be Ilhan Omar or Walz, is going to have to at some point answer up.
Yeah, and so I want to make sure to unpack this for people who are watching so they understand just how serious this is. So you have a $1 billion fraud scheme that was happening in Minnesota on COVID payments and other things that weren't going to the right place. But there's also a lot of that money was being sent then to the Middle East, being sent to Somalia. And we know that nothing good is happening in many of these countries, particularly Somalia. Yeah. And so that's why Secretary Bessent has said that he's going to be looking into this and he's going to dive into it and get to the bottom of it. But the fact of the matter is you've had even some of these people caught up in the fraud who've been cutting checks, campaign checks, whether it be to Tim Walz or going to Ilhan Omar. And so they're right in the thick of this. But for Ilhan Omar to go and throw that out there against Stephen Miller, this is really reprehensible. I mean, this is someone in Ilhan Omar who giggles when she hears names like Hamas or Hezbollah. She even giggled at something to that effect during the interview yesterday. And it's really shameful. If you're going to come to this country, you need to respect the country and be proud that you're here. If you want to just tear down America, then stay wherever you're at in the first place.
You're right. And I also want to play Secretary Bessent, because this is what he said on CBS. And, you know, they love to say no one is above the law. This has nothing to do with race. It has to do with operating if you are breaking the law. Here he is.
Representative Omar tried to downplay it, said, oh, it was very, it was very tough to know how this money should be used. Yeah. You know, she was gaslighting the American people. And when you come to this country, you got to learn which side of the road to drive on. You got to learn to stop at stop signs, and you got to learn not to defraud the American people.
You know, Tim Walz also may have some explaining to do. You know, the concern I think a lot of people have is, as you said, a lot to unpack here. But the fact that they go on these left-leaning outlets, and the real questions really aren't being pressed to Walz or Omar, and then they're allowed to spew this rhetoric, which really is not serving of taxpayers that deserve answers in Minnesota, Jason.
Yeah, and Secretary Bessent was exactly right when he said that when you come to this country, you have to follow the laws. You have to know what side of the road to drive on. You have to know that you're not going to get away with defrauding the American government and American taxpayers to the tune of $1 billion. But you see the way that Ilhan Omar and many on the left have come to the rallied around them saying, well, how would they know how you're supposed to send this money? Or what's wrong with sending money back to Somalia, even if it maybe came from ill-gotten means. And so I think there's going to be a lot here as they start going into it. I think there can be much bigger ramifications. And I tell you, this governor's race in Minnesota could get tight really quick. And Ilhan Omar, I think she really needs to be worried about where this investigation might go, because a lot of these fraudsters are right in her district.